future's near. Tech that amplifies our cheer. Flying high on dreams so bold. So for dreams ready to be sold. Boost to the future, light it up. Podcast tales, fill up your cup. Innovation pathways bright. Journey start from dark to light.
Welcome to the Boost VC podcast. My name is Adam Draper. I am the founder and managing director of Boost VC, where we are the first check into deep tech startup founding teams. On the Boost VC podcast, we are going to be interviewing high agency, high authenticity human beings who I just want to meet, hang out with, and have fun with. I believe if I'm having fun, the listener's going to have a blast. And so that's what this is. So all you have to do as a listener is sit back, relax, and enjoy a high trust conversation with the best entrepreneurs, investors, and people doing interesting things. So enjoy.
Visions clear through sleepless eyes. VC funds the rocket fuel.
Red
We're
lights.
rolling?
Yeah,
We're going. Let's
yeah,
go.
Yeah. And so I remember like having this meeting and being like warm intro, like we're in the space we want to be in, doing all that stuff. We didn't have a product yet, but we were like, we're nailing this meeting, we're doing all this stuff. And we'd just gone through so much, and it was just like, I need to lay down on the ground here. Like
Yeah. My only time, and we might as well talk about our crying
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
The only time that I will admit to having probably cried. Do you like my major caveat?
Well, and I like that your eyes are just
I'm just like
so
I'm just
closed
like, I
right
don't
now.
want it.
Your eyes
No, hey,
shut.
building things is hard. Hey, building things is hard, Jordan.
It is.
We were fundraising for our first institutional fund, and I had just been shooed out of a room in 10 minutes after my pitch, because it turns out in 2016, no one wants to invest in a VR Bitcoin fund.
Yeah.
And now, probably people would like that. But now we're deep tech. But I'm kidding. We're not kidding at all.
What do you think is the big difference? Is it the same thing but just rebranded?
It is the same thing, but rebrand. No. So the longer story, because we have all the time in the world, and I'll tell it, is I've just always had an affinity for like what was on the edge. And like, it doesn't matter what it was. It was Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin was defined as Bitcoin at the time, and then they changed it to crypto. And then we started to really see a lot of like VR stuff. And we were like, okay, hey, how do we like average these into a word? You know, like how do we get this into a word? Some people were trying frontier tech. I didn't like it, but it turned out that was the market rate at the time. And then over time, it just like the words change, and but the general concept of it was always still just like great people solving hard problems with technology. And like that has always been true. And now it's just the reason we use deep tech is that people accept that as that word.
Yeah.
Even though I'd say in the 50s, venture capital was that word. Like it wasn't, there was no difference. It was just like, that was what it was. I feel like in some ways deep tech is like back to the basics of like, of what venture capital could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's also just a great word, and people like it resonates with people. And it gives a little freedom to the people who use it. Like,
yes.
Oh yeah, I'm deep tech. So how many times have you been rejected?
A lot. I mean, just like in this company or in...
Let's start with when you were a child. No, but let's start third grade.
How many rejections?
Ballpark it. And do you think there are rejections that you don't even notice because you're just numb to it?
Yeah, like I think that it's changed now. Like we had a rejection where like the risk profile of the investor we were speaking to, like it was like we weren't even really having a meeting. It was more just like, I'm telling you what VR is. You're not convinced of it. You don't have a middle schooler. You don't have a high schooler.
This is going to be difficult.
And so like, I'll just tell you what is happening in this space. And they're like, thanks so much.
Yeah. And you knew immediately that wasn't a fit, right?
Well, I wasn't even pitching them. They were like asking me for information. And so like I would count that as a rejection because like anytime you're in the meeting,
you hope that it goes the other way.
Yeah, but like, you know that you're never, like you're saying about the risk profile thing.
Yeah. No, this guy, I loved his write-up. He wrote all this stuff and I was like, yeah, no, that's who we are. That's who we are.
Yeah.
This guy actually really gets us. I'm sad he's not saying yes, but this is a perfect, like I could send this out and feel good about being a positive response on Boost. So,
yeah. I'm trying to think. I didn't answer. I want to say there have been 5 meaningful rejections that really were hard. I think that we were rejected by Y Combinator twice. We were added as a company in like a article from a fund. They were like, we love what you're doing, can we like write about it? And they didn't invest when we actually presented what we were doing.
So they wrote about you, but
they were like, we love everything that this company is doing, we're not investing in this company. Thank you to that fund. I got introed like on like just the warmest intro you could have, and like rejected. You're gonna want me to name names here?
No. No, it isn't about spreading rumors. It's not airing. We're not airing.
No,
it's more just like rejection, understanding it. So what my worst one? I'll give you that was a bad one. 12 minutes and I was kicked out. Was not ideal.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my next meeting, I revamped everything and like did great. And it was more warm. Warm is important. Warm's important. But there's another warm one Brayton brought in, and him listening to this is going to be laughing. So I'm excited for that moment when he calls me after hearing this. But it was over Zoom, and he was like, hey, like, this is basically, it felt like a sure thing from his perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, like I know the guy.
I went to middle school with this guy.
I know the partner there. And I walk in and like me and this partner just don't see eye to eye on anything. And like, I feel like I'm pretty likable as a person sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too so. And like at the end of it, I was like, what? I didn't like that. Just didn't work. Like, have you been in a meeting like that where you're like, nothing worked?
Yeah.
Like nothing I said was right.
Yeah. Especially when you're putting on, you're trying to be charming you're selling,
and I feel I'm charming.
And none of the arrows in your quiver you can't even reach them.
You and me, I feel like we're crushing it right now. We're being super charming.
I remember, it's funny though, when you look back on like those moments of rejection, and I think it's always important to use them as fuel.
So you are VR, hits driven business. You you were a college level athlete.
Yes.
Pitcher.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you're competitive. Are you competitive?
Yes.
Define that. Define competitive for yourself.
I think that I hate that I don't have like a unique line for it, but I love the line from Moneyball is like, I hate losing more than I love winning. Like,
I didn't know that was from Moneyball. I like that line.
Yeah, because it's funny, like Arian will say like, you talk about winning a lot. Like in our text, he's like, I was like, I just want to win this. Yeah. And he's like, you talk about winning
and it is
quite a bit.
But I would argue baseball there are a bunch of differences between baseball and founding a startup and winning, though, I would guess. So, first off, how fast could you pitch? Because I feel like we might as well brag.
In high school, I would throw like 88. In college, I'd get up to like like my first 2 years, I got up to like 90, I think. And then later on in my junior year, I gained a lot of velocity. The fastest pitch I ever threw was 96.
Best piece of advice you could give someone.
Pitching is a sprint.
Yeah, that was what you told me, and there are two pieces of advice I ring true in my head while I'm throwing, and that is one of them.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that pitching is like the art of pitching is used a lot as like a term, and it's a lot of throw strikes first, really focus on like going slow, making sure you're filling up the zone. But what you find is actually, and I think similar in startups, is the faster that you go, the less time you have to mess up.
Have you ever read the book The Art of Hitting?
No.
There's an actual book. It was by the best hitting therapist. And and I actually modeled the Breakfast with Pops book off of
Really?
Breakfast with Pops. Might as well just
Plug it.
Plug it. Breakfast with Pops.
I've read it, and I since you guys invested in us, I have not missed a gym day except for this day today. But I'll make up for it tomorrow. So.
Okay, so you are now working in virtual reality. Your previous job was working in virtual reality. Yeah. Before that, what were you doing?
I was a student.
You were a student. Why VR? Like a lot of people, I would argue I've been in VR about the same amount of time, but just as a investor, so I'm not like full commit, right? Mm-hmm. I am, but I'm not.
Wait, what?
I'm an investor, so it's like an index. You know?
Yes.
And I love it, and I know it's coming. But why did you commit so early? What made you love virtual reality?
The first time that I did virtual reality, I had to pretend to be. I was in a simulation where I was a cow. For a research project.
Was it a 360 video or was it actually?
No,
like,
it was an animated cow.
You're an animated cow.
Adam, obviously.
Okay. Is that why you paused so long? You were like,
I was trying to remember the first time I did it.
Were you more deciding like, am I actually going to tell the story or?
Well, and then the second time, so I was like, this is a joke. This is.
Yeah.
This is, which I think is a lot of people's first reaction to it is like, this is cool, this is a joke. Because you do like the plank, which is a very famous simulation of walking the plank.
Richie's plank.
And then you drop the floor out from under you and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to fall. But you're still standing here on the carpet and you're totally fine. So there's like the first two things that you do and you're like, I get this, the effect of the technology, but then it's implementation to gather data or whatever. At the time in 2014, I was like, this is wonky. I don't know if I'm going to return to this. The second time that I did it was out of necessity because I was in a game design class. My teacher said, I'll give you an A if you make a virtual reality video game for your final in our class. And so I went to the VR lab at Stanford. And there was this guy there, and he said, "Oh, I built this lab here. I've done the experiments on you. You did my cow experiment, and I can help you make a VR video game." And that was Cody. That's how I met Cody.
No.
Yeah, my co-founder. And so that's how I met him in 2015.
I mean, the joke that I've always said is like, I think Cody's not real.
Even though you met Cody around that time, you have actually met him well before you invested in Throwback Studios.
Did I really?
Yeah.
So you were there early.
I was the first employee. So Cody was the founding CTO, and he said, after we made that video game, he's like, I'm starting this company. You should come and work here. And so I said, cool, sounds good. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had just like my baseball career had just ended. I thought I was going to be a pro baseball player.
I was pretty sure that you were just like saying you had a co-founder whose name was Cody, and it was just you for like the first 6 months. We never really saw Cody. It was always interfacing with Jordan.
Maddie has met Cody on.
I've met Cody also.
Okay. Yeah.
Now.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, have I? Yeah, I met him in person recently. Did I? No.
Nope. So, and we're pretty deep into this investment.
So this is. I guess I just. Oh, he was on Zoom. I've seen him on Zoom.
You've seen him on Zoom.
A bunch.
So.
My diligence was
But
was deep.
But the reason for VR, at the time so after school, after I met Cody and I made the video game and got the A, we use it for training NFL and NCAA football teams. So it was like this really great time-saving simulation where you could take everything you just did that afternoon and then capture it in a 360 video, stitch it up, organize it, and then you could have every single person in the building go through a headset and experience the same thing that the starting quarterback did today at practice. Yeah. And so at that time, I didn't really recognize it. I just thought, this is really cool. But now as I kind of think about it more, like you can essentially scale experiences to as many people as you can fit in the headset or as many people as you can reach with that video.
At what point did you have an epiphany that you were like, oh, I'm in VR? Because it sounds to me like it was almost just like a side, that it was like a project. And then
when we went home. So the first company I worked at was Striver. And I think you know Striver.
I know Striver.
Yeah. And
training.
Training virtual reality platform. And in 2015, what we found was sports has a great media hack, because if you're working in sports, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Fox Sports, every network is going to pick you up if you're an interesting new piece of technology. And so like when I went home, I'd been working at the company after school for 3 months, like, you know, after summer basically. And I went home for the holidays, and like people at holiday parties, at Christmas parties, they were like, oh, you work at Striver, I know that company. And I've seen you on ESPN and the New York Times and all these things. But we were 4 people in a house in Menlo Park. Like our house was like filled with, like Cody had one room, I had another. The downstairs was filled with GoPros and laptops and headsets. And our driveway was lined with Oculus cardboard boxes, like all the way down the driveway. And so we were like, oh my God, people know who we are. They know we're doing this goofy VR thing, but also they know who we are and what we're doing. Like, we're going to be rich. Like, this is working. Okay.
So now, how would you correlate the competitive nature of founding a company to baseball? I would assume that it's, baseball, it's like there's a game. I know there's a game. But founding a company is like there's a game every day.
Yeah.
Or there's a game every quarter. I don't know. Like, how are you, like, made to do this?
I think there are like 3 different scopes of it that I think about. You said competitiveness or winning?
What are the similarities, differences in how you like almost compete in venture? We were talking about it earlier, like you say you like to win, right? Like that's a instinct, like I want to win.
Well, I think that
what are we winning?
What are we winning? I think that's honestly a lot of entrepreneurs are like afraid to talk about what does winning mean today Completely. Or this week or whatever. For us, it changes. So number one, like I am crazy about the metrics. Every morning I like wake up and I check them like every single day, because so like there's a day-to-day aspect, which is very like baseball. Like you're seeing how the standings are, how people did or whatever.
Completely. Yeah, very similar.
Very similar. And then week over week, so every Monday we have our...
I learned statistics because of baseball.
Yeah, and then week over week we have our Monday stand-up where we track our monthly recurring revenue, downloads, and then our social following and views. Those are like our main things that we're shooting for. And then the hardest part I would say right now is choosing who to compare ourselves to, which I think is a very dangerous thing. It's
very dangerous.
Because
really you're competing against yourself.
That is, I mean, it is such a cliche, but it is also so true. Like you're just trying to, especially in what we're doing, like it's such a creative endeavor as well. There's a lot of creativity that goes into it that
unless you could pick an enemy that's like, an enemy, a competitor. Yeah, pick an enemy.
Yeah, now we're talking.
That's
Now we're talking winning and losing.
Well, I was just thinking like what you're really trying to compete against, like a staler industry. So like that, it's always good when there's like a clear like monopolist that you're like sort of competing against.
Yeah.
And so you're just sort of like, hey, like obviously we're not making a dent there yet, but like, you know, that's our war. We're not competing against other people in VR. I'm not competing against, you know, all the other content, games, whatever. Like we're trying to make change here, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a mission?
Do we have a mission?
Yeah. Like there's a horizon over there and you're like, I'm going to make change this way.
I want to help people recreate their memories and scale them to as many people as want to experience them. And this is something that you and I talk about a lot. The tools to take a vision that you have of the past and scale it to everyone in the world. So for us, is that the mission you're asking about?
Sure. You get to choose.
Because I mean, that's what
What's your mission? I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I want to.
I mean, also it's just sort of like.
I mean, that's
you're
like
trying to
that's
scale,
what our company does.
You're trying to scale your memory.
Yeah, that's
everyone.
what. Yeah, that's
you're
what
like
I'm
the
trying
memory
to do.
maker
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
I want to be the memory maker. I mean, that's what our company does. What I want to do with the company is create the best and biggest virtual reality brand, like media company and brand in the world. Should I talk about memory makers really fast so that people have
literally from
Blade Runner?
Yeah, Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so in Blade Runner, the whole world is consumed by bots and humans, and you need memories to feed the bots, or else they kind of like go crazy. They need like these base layers of consciousness, and the most valuable employees or creative people in the organization that creates the bots are called memory makers. And basically, the memory makers have these special tools to create the most like high fidelity, intense memories that like spark your consciousness.
Yeah.
And it scales to the whole army of bots. And I think that
you want to
Yeah.
control the army of bots.
I don't want to control the army of bots, but I think that that's a really powerful.
You kind of want to liberate them. I feel like you're trying to like.
Yeah, I think
first
that
you're showing what your memories are, then you're enabling.
Yeah,
other
I think
people's
that like
memories.
we have this ability to give someone your memory in like a virtual form, and so I want other people to be able to do what we're doing. So here's what.
By the way, it's hilarious trying to like I'm realizing it's hard to explain VR like to a podcast, right? Like
Yeah.
we're describing these like experiences,
Mm-hmm.
but like if you haven't tried VR, it's kind of hard to like wrap your head around.
Yes.
Yeah. In all intents like and purpose, you are. It's a baseball. You hit home runs. But
In
it's
our
like
game?
In your game right
Yeah.
now. Your memory is your field that you learn
Yeah.
to play baseball on.
So I'll tell you what I'll pitch you on what our thing is.
Just pitch me on what your thing is.
All right. So our company is called Throwback Studios. We empower creators. We empower the next generation of game creators. And the game that we currently make, our first game, is a game called Derby. Derby is based off of my childhood memory and my childhood park, Eddy Park in South Pasadena. If you want to go visit it or just look it up on Google Maps, you get a very sandlot, idyllic looking.
If we had internet here,
If we
I'd
had
be looking it
internet,
up
we
right
would have
now.
so much more
Yeah,
context.
we're gonna get internet here.
And
eventually.
we lived in this
we're
beautiful.
kind of freeloading the space, so it's just,
That's all right. And so we're stealing podcasting
Well,
studios.
we kind of
So-
snuck in here.
Podcast pirates.
Yeah.
And so our game is, the way that we started making our game was I took a 3D scan of this park, recreated it virtually, and basically put myself and my co-founder Cody into this virtual park, and we said, okay, we have this park now. What the fuck do we do? And I said, well, in the park we would pick up baseball, and so Cody said, all right, and we figured out a way to have our hands be baseball bats because it was too hard to figure out how to pick them up and interact with them or whatever. And then we started to do it, and Cody said, God, we recreated baseball, and this sucks as much in virtual reality as it does in real life. I hate this. And I said, okay, well, let's think about what sucks about baseball. It sucks because most people can't hit a baseball, and most people can't hit a home run. So let's make it so people can finally hit the baseball, and they can finally hit a home run for once in their life. And so
how many home runs have now been hit? Do you have that metric?
I think 50 million were hit last year, and then I don't have the
But you probably had about
it's
50
way
million
more. It's
already.
it's like over 10 million a week now.
I feel like we should just track progress based off of
Yeah.
dingers
Yeah.
for you.
I should know the total number, but it's the switch from staying alive database to actually good database.
I want the stat reported to me that's just dingers over money.
Yes.
In. So like you divide
Dingers
it, you're
per
like,
dollar.
This is my dinger per dollar.
I don't think our players would like that.
No, just to
all right.
Just for investor updates. I'm just talking about investor updates.
Our players are gonna see this. They're gonna be like, "Wait, Jordan talks to people about money. What the heck is happening?"
Yeah, well, hey, if you're starting a company, you should probably figure out how to sustain it with money. But you've been really good about basically every dollar that you get, you're putting back into creating new content. So it's like a self-fulfilling Mr. Beast mode.
Yeah, I mean the main thing that we learned really early on was the game of baseball is fun, but really the game of derby is just an excuse to make videos and content that can go viral on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, even LinkedIn. I mean, the thing that we recognized really early on was, and you said why VR, and why is it compelling? At the time it was for the sports, it was for the simulation, all that stuff. But today the most interesting thing is that it's the most visceral way to meet people on the internet and create content at the exact same time. And so you get these really visceral moments with players. It's the best, talk to your customers, talk to your users. It is the best platform for that because
you don't have to wait. You can just talk to your customers as you're in it.
Yeah, you put your headset on, you get put into my neighborhood park, you start hitting home runs, and kids will say, "How did you get that bat?" And you say, "Oh, the bats are over there." "Well, I don't know how to get the bat." "Well, all right, Timmy, let's go over there and let's figure it out.
Let's get the bats.
And then you can talk with them and learn where you've gone wrong in designing your experience. It's so visceral to just be, and I'll get kids, they'll be, "Jordan, what's going on?" And they're like in London, they're all over the world. I think the last time I checked, I think it's 17 countries.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so we're all over, and so the experience is really going in and hitting baseballs with your buds. But
you're having us experience your memory.
Yes. And so this is where the creation of memories becomes a little bit of a play on words, because I've recreated my memories, but people are making their own memories with
How many memories do you have in VR now? For you, you are remembering memories while you're in VR. That was something that in VR I started to realize I was actually remembering things when I was in VR, and that was kind of a weird trip for me.
I think what's hard about scale is that you start to with customer segments, you start to run into the same customer, and so you start.
Do you really?
No, I mean
the same type of customer.
The same type of customer.
Well, that's so interesting.
And so you end up having a lot of the same conversations. It's a lot like coaching almost, where you're going to have the same conversation with players who are making the same mistakes over and over. And so as our profile has grown, as we've made more, as the game has grown, as we have more followers on across social media, as we just become more known, the players really fall more into the I'm meeting a celebrity bucket versus the I'm just talking and playing this game with this person. And so, but the thing that's kind of tough about that is that it's a self-perpetuating interaction.
I mean, it's interesting to reframe the idea of games as memories, in which case you are the celebrity there, right? Like
Yeah.
you've created this memory and this game that everyone's being a part of. And at some point, I would assume that there will be tools for more
Yeah.
games
Well, because
or memories.
the players are, the players, when they meet me, you've seen the videos. I mean, it's, oh my God, you're the owner. You're the creator.
They freak out.
And they lose their minds.
Yeah.
And they want the full Mr. Beast experience. They want, give me a car, give me $10,000, give me everything in the game for free. I want special privileges for meeting you.
Have you tried giving away money?
We're working on it. It's hard to do because they want it in the game. Like they want money in the game.
Yeah. Well, is that harder? Giving
little
away
bit.
real
It's
money
just-
easier?
Giving away real money would actually be easier. Yes. But
Like
I think
Venmo or
But I
something?
think that would be a little concerning. I mean, the age demographics, you don't want to be.
Well, could you try like an experiment? I guess we don't need to be doing a product brainstorm on this, but like,
I worry about the ramifications of. I think that a lot of VR companies are going to run into consequences of paying players. I think that a lot of VR teams do that for stuff now, and I think that there's always ramifications when the game pays players for being in the game or doing stuff in the game or whatever. Like game design and game creation is very hard to like simplify.
Okay, what have you learned about that?
So I'll start with VR as a medium. As Steve Jobs said, if the computer is a bicycle for the mind, if the PC is a bicycle for the mind, I think that VR is a car for the internet.
Okay. Wait, did you do both of? Did Steve Jobs say both of those things?
He said the first
The
one.
first-
I'm
adding your own thing.
I'm adding a second.
Okay. Well, you should probably just take the whole thing. It's like open source knowledge.
Yeah, I'm plagiarizing the first half, modifying the second.
Yeah. Well, it was
Making
just
my own.
like Steve Jobs said, and then you said a phrase, and then you said part of that phrase.
Yeah.
So it was. I'm just.
To quote Steve Jobs in the first sentence, PC is a bicycle for the mind.
Just.
Computer is a bicycle for the mind.
I'm just saying your quote was similar to like me explaining bonk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so VR is a car for the internet. What does that mean? Players who cannot drive, people who cannot drive need ways to go meet up with their friends. You see this happen throughout the history of the internet, AIM, voice chat over video games, and then VR is like, instead of voice chatting over it, you're going to see your friend, whether you're, a world away.
And you're gonna bonk them.
And you're going to bonk. And so...
It sounds horrible.
Damn it. And so
I have to change the name of my game now.
I know. Jesus. And so the thing that you find though is that players who can't drive, people who can't drive, they use VR to meet up with their friends, do things that they couldn't really do in real life, and capture those things and create things that they would never have a chance of doing in real life. So what does that actually mean? They are able to, without asking a parent for a ride, go meet up and play a sport or an activity with their friends, whether it's across town.
So it's like people keep arguing that like Minecraft or Roblox is kind of in this vicinity, but now we have a way in which
it's way more visceral.
You can visceral is the word. You've used the word visceral a lot. Is that
I'm in on visceral.
You're all in?
Well, because it's like I'll never finish a game of Fortnite and like need to lay down. Like I'll never feel that way about a gaming experience, but like VR, like at the end your heart is racing, like
Dude,
you've
you're sweating.
been in a different experience.
You're sweating. Yeah, super hot. I am just every single time I play that. I'm just like I'm an assassin, and like people are like I'm like I need to win.
Yeah,
I am in the Matrix. That's how I feel every time I'm playing.
And so players, they'll go and they'll meet up with their friends, and then what you also find, another like thing that's become very apparent, is that players are using VR as a tool to become famous. And so they want to use the headset to create videos within popular titles that will hopefully get them views on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and get them followers.
So fame is the currency.
Fame is a big part of what drives virality, popular games, like everything in VR.
And and you're saying, hey, if you don't drive, I'm assuming don't drive means like
anyone
younger
under,
than 20.
Yeah.
So 20 and younger is like sort of the people who will understand this viscerally.
Yeah, because you can bring you can do something by yourself that you could never do, or you could have like a whole cast of people in an experience with you and capture an insane time that you would never be rolling, you'd never have a camera going for that in real life, like while you're bowling or doing whatever at the batting cage. But because it's in a virtual space and crazy things are happening, there are these moments, memories that are happening in these experiences that can then be shared and scaled on short form social networks to millions of viewers. And so what you find then is the players, they want, like, the games are fun, but they really want to use the games to extract content. And then that content needs to perform well on short form social networks. And if you can create the game that's really fun to view, that is more valuable than the game that is really fun to play.
Yes.
Because you're always going to have people drawn in.
There's always this third party watching.
Yes. And that is really, I think, the big thing that we have learned is that we probably know our audience. We probably know our audience better than we know our players right now. We know the videos and the content that they want to view.
That's super interesting.
But we probably don't know what our players want exactly yet.
Well, I know that VR is coming for like a very specific reason, which is, and like you and I might be looking too closely at it, and people listening might be like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
I'm fine.
But I'm generally fine with it too. I do like trying to help walk people there, though. Like I want them to be excited about it. But the reason I know it is coming is like at the very beginning when we made the bet on virtual reality, there were about 10,000 total headsets. I don't know, 15,000 total headsets. Turns out distribution does matter. Like you can't build $1 billion company on 13,000 headsets.
No.
You can't build it on 50,000 headsets, 100,000 headsets. So what all of the entrepreneurs we were backing kept saying, they would always be like, we're adding this new experience, like this new thing. But they... Like it was a cool widget, like it was from a gut insight.
Yeah.
And now I feel like that conversation's changed, and it changed to because the user wants it, because the customer wants it.
Yeah.
And then there was this phase of like where Facebook, Meta, their store sort of like can by having the door unlock, like flows a lot of customers. And so suddenly people are trying to game the system in order to get past the gates of Meta. And then once you're in there, now you're competing against the gauntlet of other eyeballs inside of there, right?
Yeah.
And so like people are talking more in reference to like, these are our insights now.
Yeah.
This is how much money we're making. Like it's a business, which is really exciting to me. That's why I know.
Yeah. And like they just, the last week or two, they came out with a Meta in the dashboard. They have a new thing that says benchmarks. So you can benchmark where you stand the last week, the last month, the last year across against all apps, top 500,
That's
300,
clever.
200, and 100. And then you can go through like all the different categories as well. So you can like really start to get a sense of where does your app stack up in terms of conversion from...
Benchmarks is a good idea because you don't need to give specific information away, but you can give away insights.
Yeah, and then also like, I mean, they tell you like where you sit in terms of like the percentiles, and so you're like, oh shoot, like we're low on this or we're high here, like
You just get like this
Like-
email that's like, you're super average.
you you suck.
Yeah,
No, it's
you suck. You've been spending your life on this, but don't.
well, and I think also as a startup, like you have to choose the benchmarks that you actually care about and like that you can focus on, because you can't care about all 9 that they give you that you're comparing against all these other teams. The thing that you really have to focus on if you're going to compete with yourself is how do we sustainably grow the business in the way that works for our vision, as opposed to trying to, right now, I mean, we talk about it a lot, is like there's a lot of copying going on in VR. There's a lot of people who are saying, these games are working and we're going to
Let's replicate it.
And like whether that's like that, I think that's a very valid exercise for developers, because
I just tweeted that. I just tweeted that like everyone, I actually don't think it's a bad thing for the market, but I said everyone's trying to copy Gorilla Tag.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting that that's sort of the, like, if you're never gonna it's hard to be Gorilla Tag when Gorilla Tag.
Yeah, I
is
mean,
there.
and the funny thing about the VR culture, so for people who are listening who don't know what's going on in VR at all, which is totally fine, like
But there's this game called
there's this game called Gorilla Tag. It is a free-to-play game on MetaQuest. It has 1 million at the peak. It has 1 million daily users and 3 million monthly users. It was initially created by one guy named Carousel Smith. His username is Lemming, and he created this game basically during COVID by himself, launched it, it went viral. He made $26 million by himself off of this game, a free game through in-game purchases, cosmetics, hats, stuff like that. And then he scaled this team, and now they just announced they've made over $100 million off of this free game in virtual reality. As initially a one-person team, I think hired up to like, I think they have over 100 people working at the company now. They're working on multiple games, but like the opportunity to create massive amounts of money per employee in VR right now is there.
How big's your team?
Yeah, so we've been working on Throwback Studios now for 2 years, and we have 2 people working at the company. Me and my co-founder Cody. We have hundreds of thousands.
So
of
when
people
you say we, it's just
it's literally just
you're like
we barely
we.
qualify as a we, but it's a we. And so
And I'm
like
still-
being in a room with this many producers
Yeah.
and people, I'm like, this is a lot of people at work right now.
and I'm skeptical that it's a we. So
Yeah.
it's even
Yeah, you don't even Adam doesn't even think I have a real life co-founder. It's just
Cody, we love you.
it's me
I know
going
you're
crazy
real.
in the mirror.
Cody, I know you're real.
No, and so we're able to scale our content to millions of viewers a month. We have hundreds of thousands of followers across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and we don't need a huge team because
So really what you're learning is like if you have a problem when you're in Derby, you should complain to Jordan.
well, and that's what the players, there's a big, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse because you have that relationship with the players because they know that I am live every day from 5:30 to 6:30 playing the game, so they can come and talk with me there, and they'll say I played the game today.
PM or AM?
PM. And so they'll say, I played. Did you change the hitting physics? It felt weird today. Why did you change this thing? Change it back to that. Like, or our comments, like we've made wrong decisions.
That's pretty incredible.
Thanks.
No, it's incredible that someone's playing enough where they're like, hey, it was different.
Yeah, I mean, when I was on the plane, there was one of our top players. His name is SN Fax, and he messaged me. He said, I'm concerned someone may have found a hack in your or a glitch in your game, and they there's always players who are reporting our bugs and our issues to us, and like we have this army of players. And they know that it's me. Like they know, they can see that I'm playing. They can tell I'm passionate about it. And then they, when we do stuff right, they let us know. And then when we do it wrong, like our comment section is
Just
destructive. Like a tornado of fire. It's horrible. There are a lot of there have definitely been some anxious days due to the comment section.
Where do you get all your like the energy from? Why are you doing this? Like, what's the other than giving people memories and like supplying, like, what's the thing that makes you, on the bad day? There are a bunch of bad. There's starting things.
Lately, there aren't that many bad days.
Well, is that you might want to?
I know I shouldn't say that.
As the British,
cut that. Everybody cut.
As the British say, touch wood.
No. I think that a lot of startup founders will say a mission that they set out with at the beginning. We did have an idea of what we wanted to do. We wanted to build a live network that created viral content through asynchronous video. We knew there'd be a live network that does that. We thought our first thought was like a mobile app. It sucked and it failed. The thesis was right. The implementation was wrong. We did have that part right. But if I'm telling you that when we were surviving and just trying to keep our company alive, that we are like,
you were like,
why are we going to make a VR baseball game? Is because it was what we could do the cheapest. It was what we could do to make the best content to get really loud about every day. It was what we could do. And now looking back on why I do it every day, it's such a privilege to be able to provide people who are alone in their rooms, who maybe don't have a lot of friends, who are looking for connection and community, to give them moments of joy in their day where they're telling me, I get DMs all the time. I met my best friend in your game. And if you're getting messages like that, like, yeah, it's cool to make a lot of money and like I plan on it. I want to do that to build the best company and the best games possible. But if you're helping people find their best friends and making connections and memories, that's like such a privilege. And I think that like a lot of times,
can you assess like how many friendships have been made?
Yeah, we can tell how many people are like
consistently
playing the game, and then they can make a connection on the meta network that's like a layer above Derby. And so we know like that data exists. I think it'd
be pretty cool to know.
Yeah.
I was just sort of thinking like it'd be pretty fun to be like, hey, our metric is how many friends like we're making.
Yeah. But I think that like that part of it, like we get to do that. We get to give that to players every day. And I think that's incredible. And then I think also the fact that VR is kind of hard is like, it makes it a fun puzzle.
Well, thank you for being on the Boost VC podcast.
Thank you.
This was fantastic.
Yeah.
You're the best.
You are. Thank you.
And the insights in VR, this is going to be the most valuable thing someone could watch if they're in virtual reality. So I'm pretty amped. Or listen. I don't know how podcasts work anymore, but I run one.
I think that people mainly listen. But
I think they mainly listen too.
Yeah.
That's the hope anyway.
Yeah.
Because we both have faces for radio.
Yeah, exactly. I hide behind a virtual avatar. So you got that right.
Thank you for listening to the Boost VC podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, share, and give me feedback. Get back to me with questions about the guests, about technology, about venture capital. You can reach me at Adam Draper on my Twitter handle, or adam@boost.vc if you want to email me. So I would love to hear from all of you, and thank you so much for listening to the Boost VC podcast.